I did get this comment from a follower, and I thought it was really worth sharing because I want to know your views on this. What do you think about being debt free? What are your ideas? So please leave your comments below and let me know if you agree with this person that gave me this feedback, or do you think that you want to be debt free? Are you debt free? Do you want to be debt free in your future? So I'm going to read some of this comment from this individual. And they said they saw my video on debt after death. Okay, because that is what the short was that I posted. It was what happens to your debt after you die. Okay, I thought it was an interesting topic. I was wondering what would happen when my dad died to his debt. And I didn't have to pay anything. There was no responsibility on my end to pay anything. But fortunately, in my view, my dad didn't have a lot of debt. He had a few medical expenses that were taken care of. And that's not something that really affected me. But I thought it was a topic that people would be interested in. But at any rate, this person says they looked at my debt after death video, and considering that even the debt-free concept is being freer is an increasingly hard sell. And that's what I'm saying. It does seem like it is a hard sell for me. Because whenever I suggest people be debt free, it really falls flat. It doesn't seem like people, want to be debt free. That doesn't seem like they want to pick up on that idea or that challenge to get out of debt. So they go on to say, realistically, no one is skipping a meal when you default on debt by dying. That's true. I don't think people are defaulting on debt by dying, they're skipping a meal, or even when you're living. Okay. Maybe I should just go ahead and kind of read through this without interrupting and putting my 2 cents in. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, let me roll that back a little bit. Realistically, no one is skipping a meal when you default on debt by dying, or even when you're living. Debt these days isn't a payment plan with the plumber. It's an agreement with a bank. And that's the game they play. They control what you pay, and it's tied directly to you borrowing. If you pay cash like a good boy, you're paying the bank established borrower rate. So sleep easy, go get a mortgage and a boat. Everyone gets paid if you default. It's just another line on the default column. Or buy with cash, try to keep up, and then find you're chasing someone else's gain, living some fantasy from the 50s. So what this person is saying is that when you're living on a cash basis, okay, that you can't really have that American dream. At least I think that's what they're saying, because what you're doing is you're trying to keep up, but your money really isn't worth anything. But if you borrow it, then you're using somebody else's money. And that's what I used to think. Okay. That's what I used to think when I was younger. You're borrowing the money, you're getting that money, you're using somebody else's money, and you're borrowing it, and that's the only way you're going to get a house, or that's the only way you're going to buy a car, and so on and so forth. So they went on to say that they don't think that this is going to make you free, while your friends are putting a cruise on a credit card. Okay, so there again, people are putting all of this stuff on a credit card. And I don't know if this person is saying exactly, okay, why would they worry about being freer? Because they're going to go and have the cruise and you're not. So it just gives you the liberty to quit jobs or have business slumps for a little bit longer than the next guy. Maybe. Okay, so that's where my point would be, is that it gives you the liberty to quit your job or have business slumps a little bit longer than the next guy. If you start living on a cash basis, you're not tied to that credit card. And in this country, in America, I do think that the banks and the powers that be want you to be tied to that credit card. Okay, I don't think that using a credit card is going to give you any more freedom. When it comes to being retired, I want to sleep at night. I want to sleep at night, and I don't want to have things on the credit card that I'm going to have a lot of stress about worrying about how I'm going to pay that. Okay, so I don't know. Again, this person seems to think that me suggesting people get out of debt and live debt free is an increasingly hard sell. And that's what I want to know from you. Is this an increasingly hard sell? Because I've been retired now for a long time. And I know a lot of people in this audience are just people that are planning retirement. So maybe when you're planning retirement, you're not, thinking about getting out of debt. Maybe you're just planning in a different way. And in fact, David and I have been talking about this. If you say you have your retirement portfolio, you've been planning for retirement, and you still have debt, how can you say you have X amount of dollars? Let's say somebody says, well, I have $500,000 for my retirement. Well, how can you say you have that $500,000 if you still have debt, if you still have a mortgage, if you're still, paying off credit card debt, if you're still buying cars and putting them on credit? So how can a person say that they have so much allocated for retirement when they still have debt? So this is something that doesn't really compute to me. I've been debt free for such a long time, and I do feel the freedom. I do feel less stress because I have been there. I have had debt, and I don't want to carry a debt again. I do understand that sometimes people need to have a mortgage. That's how they're going to be able to buy a house. But anyway, please let me know in the comments what you think about this. Is getting out of debt a hard sell? Because when you're thinking about your money and you're thinking about retirement, and being debt free just is not something that you want to be, because it's not going to allow you to have stuff. Is that what the whole issue is? That you won't be able to have stuff? Again, this video is about debt, being debt free, and whether or not you guys think that being debt free is valuable, or do you think it's just nonsense? Do you think in this economy being debt free is silly? Because if you charge things, you actually have more buying power than if you're using your money and paying it off every month, or you're paying cash for something. I really want to know if this whole being debt free is just something, like this person says, it's kind of a dream from the 50s, and I'm really off track. I'm really off track here. So again, I know I'm rambling, and I want to thank you guys for bearing with me. And please, please, please let me know in the comments what you think about this. And again, let me reiterate this again. Okay, I'm just going to read through this again real quickly to make sure that we all have a handle on it. Okay, this was referencing a short that I put up here on YouTube about what happens to your debt after you pass on, what happens to your debt after you die. So if you haven't seen that video, go and check that out and leave me a comment there as well. So they told me that they saw the video. They said, consider that even the debt-free concept being freer is an increasingly hard sell. Realistically, no one is skipping a meal when you default on debt by dying, or even when you're living. Debt these days isn't a payment plan with the plumber. It's an agreement with the bank, and that's the game they play. They control what you pay, and it's tied directly to you borrowing. If you pay cash like a good boy, you're paying the bank established borrower rate. So sleep easy, go get a mortgage and a boat. Everyone gets paid if you default. It's just another line on the default column. Or buy with cash, try to keep up, and then find you're chasing someone else's game, living some fantasy from the 50s. Okay. It's not going to make you free. Why your friends put a cruise on a credit card. It just gives you the liberty to quit jobs or have business slumps for a little bit longer than the next guy, maybe. But then again, he financed his boat 10 years ago. He can now sell it while you've been clipping coupons thinking you're socking money away. Then it's inflated away, and your $1,000 is now $400. He goes on to say, I think at some point, including retirees, people would say, screw it. Okay, so I do understand the inflation part of things. Okay, but do we just put things on credit cards because otherwise somehow that's going to help us with inflation? That's going to help us that's going to help us use our money more wisely than if we pay cash? Okay, you guys, please enlighten me in the comments. Please let me know what you think. Um, I really want to hear what you think on this one. Okay, so anyway, until next time, stay curious, stay healthy, and trust your retirement journey. I'm Arlene with Rebel Retirement. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.